So this is how the player tracking tool works. On the right side here, you have two ring visuals, two heat maps. One shows the puck position and one shows the player position, or in this case, player positions, because you have multiple players selected. So it works like this. You can select a specific zone, and then it will show what is the average, what is the player positions when the puck is in this area right here, and you can select different areas, and then it will filter the data based on that selection. Now, in the selection panel, in the filter panel, you can choose a different team. So we could change this to team D, and we can select a specific player. Now everything is anonymized, so we can only select based on the jersey number. So this player plays in number 7, and this player is clearly a left defender. You can see that by the offensive zone positions. Or we could select a different player. This player is player number 13. Probably a center based on the player positions. Finally, we could go back here, and then we could look at goalies only. Not very interesting, obviously. Or we could go back to skaters, or we could select everyone. But it's more interesting to just look at the skaters. Now, here we have something called estimated position. Now, this is just based on a simple calculation that I did, and it's not like a perfect formula or anything. It works quite well for the defenders. So if we select left defenders, we can see it fits pretty well with what we're expecting. Right defenders, the same. Forwards is a bit more messy, but it's just a simple calculation. It's just a way I used in order to try and designate the position of the players. Anyway, let's look at the puck zone position instead. So instead of selecting a small area, you can select just what's happening whenever the puck is in the defensive zone or the neutral zone or the offensive zone. And finally, you can also change the string state. So right now we're just looking at 5-on-5. We could look at power play or shorthanded. But let's just look at 5-on-5, and you could change whether or not we're looking at the team in possession. So if you select yes here, then we're only looking at situations where team D is in possession of the puck. So that's mostly in the offensive zone, and when they're not in possession of the puck, it's mostly in the defensive zone. Okay, so that's how the filter panel works. So let's just talk about the cards here in the middle. So the first row just shows the average possession of the player and the average possession of the puck. So if the X value is negative, it means that the player possession is more on the defensive side of things. If it's positive, then it's more on the offensive side of things. If the Y value is negative, it means that they're playing mostly on this side, so it's on the right side of the ice. If it's positive, then it's on the left side of the ice. So let's just try and select player 7. We know that this player is a left defender, so let's see. The Y value is positive, playing mostly on the left side of things. You can also see that the position of the puck is negative, so this player is playing more. So the puck is more in the defensive zone than in the offensive zone. And you can even see that in the next row here. So this is just the puck position in seconds. So the puck is more than twice as long in the defensive zone than in the offensive zone. And that's also what you see here. The offensive zone time is 32.3%. So if it was 50%, then the time in the offensive zone would be equal to the time in the defensive zone. And this just shows the time the player spends in the defensive zone, neutral zone, and offensive zone. Yeah, so that's how this works. And down here, you just have a chart of the defensive zone time, neutral zone time, offensive zone time for the puck. And you can even filter the data instead of going to puck zone, defensive zone. You can just filter it here. See, this is what happens when this puck is in the defensive zone. Yeah, so that's how it works. We can even go to the positions part of things now, and let's just clear the players. So now instead of showing a heat map of the player positions, it just shows the average position of the players. So again, you can select the specific position of the puck, and then it shows the average positions of all of the players in Team D. And that's how it works. Now this chart right here is a little bit different. So this one is what I used to estimate the player position. So this is the average 5-on-5 player position in the offensive zone plus the average 5-on-5 player position in the defensive zone. So this should tell you something about where the player is positioned. So it's clearly quite easy to differentiate between defenders and forwards. These are left defenders, these are right defenders. Forwards is a bit more messy, it's a bit more complicated. So again, we only have data for a single game. It might be clearer if you had more data, I don't know. But right now it's difficult to differentiate between the different types of forwards. Yeah, so the last thing I want to show is just instead of selecting a specific team, you can unselect everything, and then it will just show data for all teams. And again, you can see the player positions down here. Left defenders, right defenders, forwards, and then a few defenders in the middle. That could be either, or maybe they played on both sides. It's actually difficult to know. Now, when you look at the average player position, you will see that there are some with a very high X value and some with a very low X value. So this is just if we select one of these players, we will see that this player is playing a lot in the offensive zone. This is around 7 minutes and 2 minutes in the neutral zone, 2 minutes in the defensive zone. So the puck is a lot more in the offensive zone, which is why the average player position is very much to the right side of the ice. If we select one in the other end, it's the opposite. This player is hemmed in the defensive zone. So the puck is almost entirely in the defensive zone when this player is on the ice. Okay. The last thing I want to do is I just want to show the average player positions in two different situations. So let's look at when the puck is in the offensive zone and the team is in possession of the puck. So you can see here that it looks as if the average player positions is very tight around the slot area, but it's actually a lot more spread out than it is for the defensive side of things. So this is the average player positions when the team is in possession of the puck and the puck is in the offensive zone. So let's try and do the opposite. So let's try and look at the defensive zone when they're defending, so they are not in possession of the puck. Then you see it's very, very tight around the slot area. So when you're defending, you're securing the slot area, and you're not really as spread out as you are in the offensive zone. That makes sense. The offense is playing around the boards where there's room, and the defensive side of things are securing the slot area. Yeah, so that's it. That's how you can use this tool.